Welcome back to another episode where I'll be reviewing the Timberland's original 6-inch boots. I'll be looking at the design, talking about the type of climate this boot is best for, comfort, and more. If you're liking my videos, like and subscribe. It'll help me make more videos faster and produce content that you'll enjoy. The appeal of the originals to me is that it has that military combat boot look to it, but designed for urban environments. Since I've gone for black, I know it would pair with any type of outfit I'd wear. Since these boots run large, Timberland recommends that you go half a size down. So if your feet is usually a US 9.5, but usually wear size US 10, then you should really stick to size 9.5. Taking a closer look, the stitching of the leather is well done and has zero loose threading on it. The treads of the originals are made from rubber and are made up of isosceles triangles and plus sign pattern. In the demo, I'll show how these treads handle different surfaces and my experience with these rubber outsoles. What I'm not a fan of are the insoles, or better known as the anti-fatigue removable footbed. To me, they're just too thin and allow too much kinetic energy to travel up to my knees. Feeling this discomfort, I purchased a pair of athletic insoles, which I found to be more comfortable and did a better job when it came to shock absorption. Also, the shock absorption increases if you're wearing thick wool socks, which I'll be wearing for this review. Another issue is the low quality cotton laces the originals come with. My confidence in them are low because I believe that with enough time, like 1-2 months, they'll easily snap. Also, when I tied the laces, the overall tightness didn't feel as firm as I'd like them to be. So I changed my laces to these thicker ones that were spared for my Nordic hiking boot. Check that review out if you haven't already. These new laces naturally blend in with the aesthetic design of the boot, so they won't stand out and are so well woven that you can tightly tie the laces without worrying they'd break in your hands at the most inconvenient time. On the inside tongue of the boot is a reference to the sustainable manufacturing processes Timberland used to make the originals, whether leather or using recycled plastic in its interior lining. On the heel of the boots is Timberland's embossed logo, but what I really want to focus on is the pull straps. The strap is made out of a semi-thick woven material and stitched in 3 places. This cross pattern stitching is selected because it will prevent the strap from falling off after repeated use. Underneath it is a simple double or triple stitch pattern in orange thread. The holes the laces are going through are called the eyelets. These hexagonal circular metal eyelets are gunmetal gray with a matte finish and create a noticeable contrast against the black leather. More importantly, the metal allows the shoelaces to frictionlessly slide through when you're tightening or loosening them. What you need to know about the originals is that they're not waterproof and the tongue of the boot isn't stitched to the exterior upper part. It also lacks that cushiony interior of the green striped boots I already did a review on, but it is made out of ReBOTL fabric lining containing at least 50% recycled plastic. I'm showing you this part so you can see how cold wind and moisture can enter the boot if you're living in cold countries like Canada. But a counter argument can be made that it allows heat and sweat to exit the boot, so ultimately it comes down to your foot comfort level and the environment you're wearing it in. Shoe trees are important because they'll maintain the structure of the boot and allow moisture to exit more readily. This men's shoe tree is universal, so its length can be adjusted for different sizes of shoes. In this comparison, the left foot has a shoe tree and the right one doesn't, and the difference is pretty obvious. The left boot with the shoe tree looks new, yet the right boot creases are visible, making it look older than the 2 months I've been wearing it. So the importance of these shoe trees is that it will help to maintain the boot shape, protect the leather by pulling out moisture, and also combat odors. Driving in the originals is fine because the soles are just as thick as a pair of running shoes. That is to say, I can comfortably feel the accelerator and brake pedals. Also, the boots aren't that heavy, so my feet don't feel tired, which is important for those long distance drives. Here I tried their boots on different surfaces like a rotten tree log, tree stump, foliage, and tree roots. I found that soles of the boots didn't grip such irregular surfaces well when I climbed on them. In my opinion, these aren't meant for walking on such surfaces, more so flat, paved surfaces. The boot did protect my ankles from rolling, which could have led to a sprained ankle or worse, so that had to be mentioned. So let me show you the pros and cons of lacing up all the eyelets versus not all of them. My right boot will be fully laced up and my left one has the first two eyelets unlaced. Both boots are not tightened with tension for this experiment. I'll start with taking the fully laced boot off. Right away I found it really difficult and challenging to remove because there's so many points of contact to keep my foot from sliding around as much as possible. I would use brute force to remove the boot, but it wouldn't come off until I further loosened the laces. Taking off the left boot with the top eyelets unlaced was significantly easier. I would just unlace it and gently tug at the heel and it'd slide off. Now I'll do the reverse and actually put them on. Again, the boot with the fully laced eyelets is just so difficult to place on, even when I was using the pull straps on the back. An important thing to note is that fully laced meant that laces were shorter to tie unless you tighten everything. The remaining boot was easy to put on and required no force. I've been wearing these boots for 2 months now and I already see parts of the heel unevenly wearing down. I know that the heel is rubber, but I have to wonder what kind of cheap formula was used to make it. You see, my Timberland green threads was worn the entire time for last fall and winter and doesn't show any asymmetrical wear on the heels. So to be honest, I'm a bit concerned about the quality of the rubber and hope that Timberland designers consider using better material or something like recycled shredded car tires so the heels don't wear out so fast. How about walking on smooth but textured surfaces like this boulder? Well, the original latched onto the surface with no problem. This supports my thoughts that this boot is best suited for normal and sometimes uneven surfaces. I wore these boots while it rained and found that it kept my feet dry, but it could also grip the slick slidewalk really well. In terms of hiking up steep slopes, the original does a good job of gripping the soil and moisture covered leaves with no issues. Due to the lightness of the boots, I didn't feel tired or my Achilles heel being sore walking up this 35-degree angled slope. However, the original is not a heavy-duty boot, and if you trip on a tree root, you will feel the shock throughout your foot. Even walking down the hill, I felt confident the boot would grip the ground well. However, I did notice that my toes would bump and grind against the front of the boot, making them quite sore by the time I reached the bottom of the hill. Remember, the boots doesn't contain the cushiony interior of the green thread or even a rubber toe rand to protect the toes, so it's no surprise I experienced this. The originals have no issue gripping gravel, sandy, and pebble-covered trails. Yet at the end of my walk, I found that a few small and medium-sized pebbles were caught in the treads, but I could easily pop them out with my fingers. The boots were covered in dust, but they're leather, so I just used a microfiber cloth to dust them off. In terms of internal temperature, it comes down to your sock material and if your feet easily get hot or cold. Because of these factors, only you can decide if wool or cotton socks are best for you to wear. Since I filmed this review in autumn, the weather is cold, but I know warmer season like spring and summer, when thinner socks would work best for me. Wearing the original on your basic everyday asphalt obviously works and is what most people will wear it for. Whenever I wear them, it takes a few minutes for my feet to get used to them. For instance, I was walking to the store and my feet were uncomfortable for the first 5 minutes, but they adjusted and it felt okay afterwards. Overall, the Timberland's original 6-inch boots is a nice pair of footwear to own for urban environments and simple hiking trails. My primary concerns are that the heels asymmetrically wear out since they're made from low quality rubber, and that moisture and colder temperatures mean that they're only good for drier and warmer seasons. Of course, the type of sock you wear will determine if your feet stay warm or cold in it. If you found this review helpful, subscribe to the Definitive channel for tech reviews and I'll see you in the next episode.